Hello everyone, welcome back to Study Room. So in this video, we are going to continue with the chapter Chemical Effects of Electric Current. And in this video, we are going to learn in detail about electroplating, its procedure, and the electroplating pollution. So let's start. Now, what exactly is electroplating? So, the process of depositing a layer of any desired metal on any other material by the means of electricity, by the usage of electricity, is called electroplating. So, let's see an example. Women using ornaments which appear to be made of gold. Now, however, with repeated use, the gold coating wears off, revealing the silver or some other metal beneath it. So, from here, we can observe that below the coating of gold, there was another metal. So, silver was electroplated with gold to give it a good appearance, right? So, now by electroplating, a metal, suppose it's silver, it can be electroplated with gold. So a layer of gold from this electrode goes and deposits itself to the silver metal so that it can have a coating of the gold metal. Easy to understand. Now let's perform this activity to show electroplating of copper. What do? You take two copper plates of about 10 centimeters by 4 centimeters and you clean it with sandpaper and water and dry it. Then you take a beaker and fill it with water. In the water, you put 2 teaspoons of copper sulfate solution. In that, you can even add some dilute sulfuric acid to increase the conductivity. Now you connect the two copper plates with the battery and immerse it in the copper sulfate solution as it is shown in this image. Correct? So these are the two copper plates, they are connected to the battery and they are immersed in the copper sulfate solution. Now, what will we observe here is that one copper plate becomes thick, means coating occurs on it, and other becomes thin. Electrode on which coating occurs is connected through negative terminal of the battery. So suppose if this is the beaker and here is the negative terminal and here is the positive terminal. So the electrode connected to the negative terminal will have the coating. So the metal will get deposited on this particular electrode that is connected to the negative terminal of the battery. So we can conclude that copper gets transferred from one electrode to another. It gets transferred from this electrode to this electrode. That is, it deposits itself over here. Now, what happens if we interchange the electrodes and repeated the activity? As we saw in the activity, there was a particular electrode connected to the negative terminal and one electrode was connected to the positive terminal. Now, what if we interchange the electrons? What would happen then? Then the electrode where the metal was deposited, it from there the metal will again get drawn towards the first electrode that was connected to the positive terminal. Correct? So now we have interchanged. The metal is already deposited here. Now if we interchange, then the deposited metal will again go back to the original electrode. Correct? Now, how does exactly this electroplating occur? We already saw what is electroplating and how is, but let's see how is it happening. What is the procedure for it? So when the electric current passes through the copper sulfate solution, copper sulfate dissociates into copper and sulfate. it dissociates into two parts, that is copper and sulfate, right? So the free copper gets drawn to the electrode connected to the negative terminal of the battery and gets deposited on it. So now what happens here is that from the other electrode, a copper plate, an equal amount of copper gets dissolved in the solution. Thus, the loss of copper from the solution is restored and the process continues. So now what happens here is that there is some free copper present in the solution. So when the electric current passes through the circuit, the copper from the solution gets deposited to the electrode connected to the negative terminal of the battery. And an equal amount of copper is deposited from the first electrode into the copper sulfate solution, right? That's why the copper from this electrode gets deposited to this electrode. Simple enough, very simple, right? So let's continue. What happens if we use carbon rod in place of copper plate? Now, suppose instead of copper plate, we use carbon plate connected to the negative terminal of the battery. Here, suppose if this is not copper rod and this is carbon rod, what happens then? Then, by connecting a carbon rod in place of copper plate, which was connected to the negative terminal of the battery, we succeed in obtaining a coat of copper on the carbon rod. The same procedure will then take place, that is, the copper will get deposited on the carbon rod that is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, right? Now, what are the applications of electroplating? We already saw how electroplating takes place. What is electroplating? But what is the use of electroplating? Why do we do electroplating? Chromium plating is done on many objects such as car parts, bath taps, kitchen gas burners, bicycle handlebars, wheel rims, and many others. Chromium gives a shiny appearance. That's why chromium is electroplated on all these parts. It does not corrode easily and it resists scratches. So there are many advantages of chromium, and that's why chromium is generally electroplated on many appliances. Now, chromium is expensive, so the object made from a cheaper metal the object originally is made from a cheaper metal which is not expensive, and then only a chromium coating is provided on it because we can't afford to build the material wholly from chromium because chromium is very expensive. And then when the material is built from a cheaper metal, only a coating is provided of chromium, correct? Now, jewelry makers electroplate silver and gold on less expensive metals, such as iron. Generally, what happens is there is iron material and then silver is electroplated on it to give a good appearance so that jewelry can be then worn. So these ornaments have the appearance of silver and gold, but they are much less expensive. So it's cost effective. Correct? Also, tin cans used for storing food are made by electroplating tin onto iron. Now, why is it electroplated? Why is tin electroplated on iron? What happens here? That iron is very reactive. So, if we coat it with tin, then iron, just suppose this is iron, and this is tin. So if we coat the iron with tin, the iron doesn't directly come in contact with the food. So what happens here, because tin is very less reactive, it protects the food. So we can say that thus food does not come in contact with iron and is protected from getting spoiled. Correct? Now, iron is used in bridges and automobiles to provide strength. However, iron tends to corrode and rust. Iron has this property that it comes in contact with the surroundings and it gets corroded or it gets rusted. So, a coating of zinc is deposited on iron to protect it from corrosion and formation of rust. So, if iron is used and a protective layer of zinc is coated here, iron does not come in direct contact with the surrounding and thus it is saved from corrosion and the formation of rust. Now, electroplating causes certain kind of pollution. What happens that there is a complicated procedure for electroplating and which involves the usage of lot of chemicals, and that is why it causes pollution in the environment. So in the electroplating factories, the disposal of the used conducting solution, as we saw in the activity, we use conducting solution of copper sulfate. So the disposal of the conducting solution is a major concern. It is a polluting waste, and there are specific disposal guidelines which we have to follow to protect the environment, because then it can harm the environment. Right? So this was all for this chapter of chemical effects of electric current. Now let's revise the whole chapter, that what did we see in this chapter. Electricity is the flow of electrons. Metals are good conductors of electricity, while rubber and wood are poor conductors of electricity. Some liquids are good conductors of electricity and some are poor conductors of electricity. We performed an activity for lemon juice. There we saw that lemon juice conducts electricity but does not conduct as easily as the metal. Right? So, the passage of an electric current through a conducting liquid causes chemical reactions. The resulting effects are called chemical effects of the current. A chemical change occurs as the result of a chemical reaction. Air is a poor conductor of electricity. Some fruits and vegetables also conduct electricity. The process of depositing a layer of any desired metal on another material by the means of electricity is called electroplating. Electroplating is a very useful process. It is widely used in industry for coating metal objects with a thin layer of a different material. So this was all for this chapter. We'll connect next time on Study Room with an interesting chapter. Till then, thank you and see you next time.